We have Isaiah Kacyvenski, Josh Schaefer, and Angela, I'm going to butcher it, Ruggiero? Ruggiero. Yes, thank you, from Sports Innovation Lab.
Thank you so much, Julie. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. For those of you that didn't get a little bit of the background of us, I played 8 years in the NFL. Angela here is one of the most decorated ice hockey players of all time, having won 4 gold medals in 4 separate Olympics. Also on the International Olympic Committee now. Josh is a very experienced entrepreneur as well as a former VP at Forrester Research. And the opportunity that we defined pretty early on is looking at a highly fragmented space in the sports technology landscape. And what we wanted to do is organize and clarify that in a major way. What we did is vet over 1,000 companies globally and really bin them into 4 different trends, as well as 30 different segments. So it gets pretty complex very quick. And I think you guys all in here understand how fragmented that can be and how disillusioning that can be as well. The 4 trends that we have focused on for 2017 are Quantified Athlete, Smart Venue, Immersive Media, and Next-Gen Sponsorship. What we're going to focus on today is Quantified Athlete. We're not going to cover all of those, but we're going to really give some updates of where we see the market going, how it exists now, and the market, where the market's going to go. I think the biggest thing is to say, hey, how do we actually look at and define Quantified Athlete? And for us, after looking at a lot of different companies, but the ability to measure, predict, and monitor athletic physiology in either performance or training sessions is really what we looked at. And from gathering from both of our backgrounds, Angela's and myself, being elite athletes, and I can talk about my own experience, this frustration of really wanting to quantify a lot of different aspects of my life, from the energy expenditure every single day, to the hydration, to the workouts, to sleep, to, I can go on and on and on. And I tried to do that as hard as I could. My body was my business, and my job was being able to put myself in the best position. And I constantly found myself scratching at the surface, only being able to scratch the surface. When did I know? I constantly was guessing. And I think one of the biggest things from my experience, and Angela, I want her to speak about it as well, is this idea of you can't really improve, or it's very hard to improve what you can't measure. And with that, I want Angela to talk a little about your experience as well.
Yeah, thanks, Isaiah. So the Sports Innovation Lab is really excited to be here. My experience as an athlete is very similar. I tried to be a quantified athlete. So I remember with a piece of paper and a pen and a little brain compared to big computer, I was writing down when I got up, what was my temperature? If it changed, could I be getting sick? I remember I used to weigh myself in and out before practice, as a baseline measure of hydration. Obviously in the gym, we would write everything down and try to correlate that with performance on the ice or on the field. And you're doing this over and over and over, and sometimes you're accurate, but what a crazy way to live. It's by trial and error versus having a device or having a system in which you can actually predict performance. And I think that's what we're really excited about as we're looking at the market, envisioning the quantified athlete. So as Isaiah was talking about, that's understanding through anything from genetic analysis to current, you could test your blood, your urine, you could test your cognitive ability, coupled with all the real-time input we're seeing now from wearables. But it isn't just what's happening today, it's what's happening into the future. And I'd love Josh to talk about a little bit how this market comes together, because we were lucky, we had successful careers, but I envision a really amazing future for all athletes. And as I walk around the globe as a member of the International Olympic Committee and chair of the Athletes Commission there, I talk to athletes from all over the world. And this is what they want. They really want to use technology to further their game. They want to use technology to further sports in general. As what we just heard, I think it's more than just sports. It's for all people. So it's going to take more than one person, one company. I think it's going to take a lot, and we've tried to break that down.
And I think that's what all of you see here, which is how this graphic up here, which has been looping as we've been talking, really defines the future that Angela and Isaiah are talking about. So at the Sports Innovation Lab, what you guys are getting a sneak peek of is the way that we're trying to simplify the quantified athlete market. And those different categories break down into hardware and software very broadly. And that hardware market is under an incredible amount of pressure because there's a tremendous amount of saturation, which is why you saw those logos looping. They were looping so fast because there's over 60 different companies right now in just activity and fitness tracking alone. And you've heard from a number of those companies here already today. Those companies are the ones with the gyroscopes and the accelerometers, and they measure your sleep and your activity. Well, there's an adjacent market, another entire sector, which is about advanced position tracking, right? GPS and computer vision. If you look at those companies, those are the ones that are trying to figure out where the athlete is. So this language, the names, the terminology that we're using here gives you a framework for thinking about how this market is segmented today, but also how it's going to evolve in the future. Those hardware players need to figure out a lot of different things. The athlete training platforms, hardware play today. You need to have a head-mounted device to get a simulated game experience, right? That can't be done in real time. The smart equipment can count your reps, maybe how many times you dribble the ball, or how many times you swing a bat with ZEP or Blast. When those hardware companies get better at collecting all that information, then we can aggregate that data. We can start to analyze that data, and that's when you start getting into those segments that are on the bottom of the screen, where you get to the point where you can do performance analysis. But performance analysis is looking back. It's looking at the metrics you're able to collect. When you're getting enough of that data and it's good enough data, then you can start doing predictive analysis. Predictive analysis is when you're actually trying to figure out how can you prevent injury? How can you speed up recovery by looking at patterns in the data? And then finally, the reason that box is empty that says real-time decisioning is because even though some of the devices that we hear about today and that you can walk the floor and see can give you coaching, can give you feedback, it's not helping you make a real-time decision. It's not predicting what you should be doing better based on benchmarking you against some other sort of metric, your own metric or other athletes that you're on a social network with, or you're a member of Runkeeper or Fitbit with. Those types of things are still further down the road, which is why real-time decisioning is empty.
Yeah, I think when you look at what Josh said, what Angela said, really what the market in the quantified athlete market, the ideal thing to be looking at is the idea of finding this performance envelope and really understanding how 2017 and beyond is going to play out both in the hardware and software space is something we spend a lot of time thinking about, and it's already been spoken about a lot today, but being able to really drive that home, the ability to really have companies rise to the top around this innovation on form factor, actually innovating on hardware. I think it's pretty evident right now, gathering data from one data point from the wrist or a strap on body, that's not enough. Using the wrist as a proxy for richer, deeper insight is not enough. And quite honestly, the people that are going to innovate are going to be able to really gather contextualized data, the hardware companies, to create a vehicle to gather contextualized data in a variety of different places. And that innovation on form factor leads to this highly accurate data outside of a controlled setting, where you're starting to compare apples to apples and starting to compare metrics that are me too. So you always constantly hear, there's too much data, there's too much data. Quite honestly, there's not enough data, there's not enough of the right data. And really that's where we see the world going, this rich data sets enabled by innovations in all different types of hardware, all around the body, in a way that really informs meaningful metrics that could then be customized, really understanding and using the other industries that are being built out from deep learning, machine learning, AI. Richer and more complex data sets are the best. And alluding to the other fact, the body is not like a wandering path of the stock market. The ability to recreate events actually puts you in a very good position to, in the end, all we wanted was to feel our best when our best was needed. That's game day. quite honestly, that's relevant to every single person, not just the elite athlete. And I think that is a very, very powerful statement, and that is where the entire industry is going to have to go.
Just to build on that, you know, injury prevention. I mean, knowing, hey, one more rep in the gym is actually counterproductive. Or thinking about it in terms of, I mean, I played a team sport. I always wondered why we all had the same exact practice plan, when forwards might need more reps and D might be less, and the goalies probably need a lot less, or the veterans need to sit back and the rookies need more. So having these predictive algorithms, this predictive performance, that's what we're talking about in the future. Tell us when to rest, tell us when to work harder, tell us what's going to be the best and customized for you as an individual.
So again, what we showed you a little bit earlier is a little bit of a preview of our company, Sports Innovation Lab, which is launching later in January. We're a Boston-based market research company that's focused on all the areas that Isaiah mentioned at the beginning. So smart venue, next generation sponsorship, immersive media, and the quantified athlete. Figuring out how these markets come together, where there'll be mergers and acquisitions, where there'll be product companies picking up other product companies because they all specialize in something different. Is going to be a huge next step for how this entire space moves more toward the vision that we're talking about, where professional athletes, youth athletes, and really the larger recreation market has the products that they want and the information they need.
Yeah, Josh and Isaiah, we're just really excited to launch, I think. We've already signed with the NFLPA, big guy over here, trying to help them with their athlete accelerator and the One Team Collective. We'll be launching with companies like Gatorade and Octagon, trying to really listen to thought leadership as we go across the world, understand what does this market look like, who are the different vendors, what companies can we add to this list to really distill this information and demystify it. Because again, athletes want, all teams want, all decision makers want is the best information out there. And rather than trying to figure it out yourselves, you know, we're trying to break that space down and really give that information so you can make those really good decisions.
And it's mind-blowing. There's over 1,000 sports technology companies in our database today. We're working through them on a daily basis to try to make sense of it all. And the reason we're called a lab is we're starting to test these products this quarter, and we'll be bringing those products in to make sure that we understand how deep their technology goes and also their ability to execute in the sports market. So hopefully that provides a little bit more clarity to the space that you guys are spending a lot of time today listening to and learning about. And you know, again, we're very grateful you guys took time to hear our story.
Thank you so much, guys. Join us in thanking the panel. And Isaiah, you can see them on the show floor.